with freaking the drug cartel that they took out in Washington, Seattle, all the way that led back to Arizona. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's not about the church. It might be a little bit about a church. It might be a little bit about this and that, but I'm going to tell you the dots that I connected with the Moscow cover-up, thanks to one special individual that I overlooked this one small detail. Because you know what? Initials aren't that always simple to tell. A lot of these details are right here in these reports. They want you to know just enough. I don't think Ellie was doing a cover-up. I think some people got busted, in my humble alleged opinion. Everything I share here is alleged. I am not here to disparage, defame, or slander or libel anyone. And everything is speculation, except minus the actual facts. And those are the reports and federal indictments. So let's talk about it. What was this car in Eugene, Oregon? Why was this car so important? Does anybody remember? We'll do a refresher. Why was this car so important in this case that they released these documents in the Moscow Police Department dump? Anyone want to take a lucky guess? Hey, we've reached Australia. Good morning, good evening. Anybody want to take a guess why this car was so important in this case? Could have been the car it was used, absolutely. Could have been. I mean, let's take a look at the car. That's the back of it. Here's the actual front of it. There was an accident. And actually, I don't think it was registered with ties to 1122. I know a lot of people suspected that. The handprint on the window was interesting. Same as the handprint on the sliding glass door that Bertie and I showed you. But what if I told you it has to do with something else? Would you believe me? Because I'm about to show you. This document, I'm going to move the comments off the screen. Follow with me. This document, 296. There's a lot of Elantras in this story. A lot of Elantras, and it's not Brian Koberger's. That guy is innocent, and we need to find a way to get him exonerated ASAP. And I know we will. We have to trust the process here, guys. So let's talk about little old 296. I've not made a video on this on YouTube, on TikTok, but I eventually will, but I'm going to share it with you here first because you guys are loyal here. Yeah. 296, contact with Kitsap County in reference to a tip given to the FBI number 108. Dustin Blaker reported this on 8/8/24. Already, Koberger's been in jail for almost 16 months. And then there's no evidence, but let me read you the narrative. Nope. Didn't the owner of King Road, he owned one. A lot of people own these cars, guys. I could name of 3, and I'll show you one more that you may have may not made connection. The narrative says, on December 8th, I was asked to follow up on a tip submitted from the FBI, an unknown person in Kitsap County. The tip provided a male in his 60s was seen trying to entice children in Kingston, Washington, and he was driving a white Elantra with Washington plates. The report also stated the male possibly worked or hung out near Arco gas station in Kingston, Washington. The tip also stated the male had reported he was thinking of moving to Moscow, Idaho. Interesting. I contacted a deputy, Aaron Logandahl, and asked him if anyone made a report to them from 2021 about an older male trying to entice children. The deputy advised they may have a report and stated the case was closed and he did not believe they ever identified the suspect in the case. The plate returned to C or J be from blank, Washington. Deputy Logandahl provided me with this info, and then he told me he would go to the Argo gas station for some follow-up. The deputy called me back in a short time and told me he talked to several employees at the Arco gas station. None of them remember any older male matching that description or anyone that drove a Hyundai Elantra. The deputy provided me with the report number in case I needed it. On August 6th, I received an email tip for discovery. Now that's the discovery, guys, that the defense has asked for. Remember, when you go to court, you got to play ball. You got to play by the rules. And every time Ann Taylor asked for 24 supplement inquiries for discovery, they had to go back and forth and do their freaking homework. Because they weren't going to get their homework. They weren't going to do the homework to show that Brian was innocent, factually innocent. They weren't going to do that, guys. They just weren't. But when they received and asked for discovery, and it was asking if we had any reports from this tip, I remembered that the tip was, and I did with it, I realized I never called Kinship County back to get a copy of the report. Well, shit, don't you think that would have been important to follow up when that's your freaking job? Nah, there's no negligence here. I'm going to overlook that. What would you guys say to that? Would that be new evidence that maybe they neglected to do their job on this investigation? Yeah, they had 7 motions of contempt. 7 motions of contempt. How would you feel if somebody, one of your loved ones, was held as a prisoner of war to become someone's patsy? How would that make you feel if that was your autistic son? How would that make you feel if it was your autistic brother, autistic dad, autistic uncle? How would that make you feel? But what if I told you there was something more going on that the FBI couldn't share with anyone? Because you know what? It would make it look so bad that they didn't tell anyone and someone is sitting in jail for something they did not do. So let me show you one more document before I show you the big bomb here. This document is 297. And this document, well, why is this important, Phoenix? Because you have to look and you have to apply every single thing from these drop docs and apply it with comprehensive. You can't just read it and say, oh, I don't know what that was. No, they connect together. 297, Eugene, Oregon, white Elantra follow-up. Well, okay, so they did their job. So they followed up and they say, on Tuesday, August 6th, I received another request for discovery because they got a CYA, guys. From the defense counsel, in this case, asking for the documentation about a tip received and later acknowledged in the MPD press release. A white Elantra, a Hyundai Elantra that was found in Eugene, Oregon. The FBI tip also received numerous tips about this vehicle. Whoa, shit. How many tips did they get? I didn't see all the tips. They only put one in here in this file and then a follow-up because they got the freaking fire lit under their butts. The FBI tip line also received numerous tips about the vehicle. It was found that no report was written at the time and documented that information was obtained to the investigation team. However, the vehicle was deemed to be irrelevant in this investigation. Wow, how could they determine it would be irrelevant if they really didn't follow up on it and dig? in order to obtain the information likely used to make this determination, I contacted Eugene PD on August 8th, 2024, and requested any information they had about the Elantra. I later received a secure email. Oh, they did follow up, guys, and explained it had 4 attachments. The first one was a press release reference. Okay, remember, we're talking about this white Elantra, guys. I later received the first press release reference to the vehicle. The other 3 were incident reports about the vehicle. The following information was obtained with the incident reports. The white Elantra bearing Colorado license plate blank 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 was involved in a crash on 12/17 in Eugene, Oregon. Law enforcement and fire responded to contact the driver. The vehicle was reported 2 other times, hence the other 2 reports. One driver's license was run during the report and listed as AR. Who's AR? The vehicle was crashed and had extensive front damage. So you can just crash and abandon a vehicle and leave it there? Okay. The RQ of the vehicle was determined to be AG. Well, who's AG? It's unclear who contacted G at this time of the report. But the determination was made that the vehicle was of no interest to investigators. The information provided to EPD is attached to this case. Okay, well, maybe that had nothing to do with this case. Maybe it was just one of those fluke things. But let me go back real quick. This is AG. They found it to be determined and to be AG. I don't know who AG was in this scenario, but guys, there's a lot of white Elantras running around out there. But let's go back to this document real quick, because this is where it gets heated and hot. 296 is the smoking gun that I was looking for in this case. This smoking gun was overlooked by myself until somebody pointed it out. 296 is where it connects. And I'm going to show you where it connects. This person that owned the white Elantra registered in Washington that may have been connected with the old creepy guy looking to pick up girls or kids or whatever it said. Let me show you, and I'm sure you've heard of these names before. And you're probably saying, okay, Phoenix, get to the punchline. I'm going to give it to you hard. So sit down, pull up a chair, and let's read this document together. I hope you guys can see this document because it's right from the DOJ website. Let me take this one off and I'm going to give it to you. Bam. DOJ case number right up at the top, filed 3/16/26. 3 months, almost to the date, Kohberger, well, a little off. Kohberger was arrested for this crime that he did not factually commit. What is this indictment? A DOJ filing indictment for the United States of America, that's us, we the people, had enough of this bullshit, to go arrest Jesse James Bailey, Thomas Carver, Bryson Guild, Kip, Tapia, Candace Bailey, Ronald McCollum, Larson, I'm just going to say their last names, Manette, Beers, Socum, Warren, Cervantes, Thomas, Smith, Wells, Hempel, Yepes, Borkman, and there's the C guy, Morales. Remember they were looking for some cocaine guy? Sharon Morales. Griffin, Hammond, Sarnes, Escato, Tripp, Dana Hansen, and Justin Hansen. Count 1. conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. In March 16, 2023, we found yada, 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 all these people. They, known and unknown, did knowingly and intentionally conspire to distribute controlled substances. You've got meth, you've got fent, you've got heroin, cocaine, and all other substances. The grand jury named all these people in this conspiracy to do exactly what they said. And they did, in fact, finally prosecute on July 2nd, Brian Kohberger's plea deal. They finally convicted Jesse and Candace Bailey. With all this distribution, all these individuals connected. And let me go back to the documents. They collected all their vehicles on December 9th, just almost 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the unalivings in Moscow, Idaho. Look at that. All the information right here that you have been begging for, right at the tip of our fingernails. Every single thing that they confiscated. Look at the actual cars. Look at what they had in their homes. They'd been investigating this group for a while, not just because of the unalivings, but because of the overdoses in that area. There's their federal indictment, guys. So now what? Well, Jesse and James Bailey, right here in black and white, they owned the vehicle that was in Eugene, Oregon, of the guy who was trying to pick up the kids, right here in black and white. Well, I highlighted it in blue. The plates registered to J or B. Candace and Jesse Bailey of Washington. So now that you know how this car was potentially connected. And the car they want you to believe that was Brian Kohberger's. But were they there that night? Or maybe did someone borrow their car just like some 60-year-old man to pick up girls? What a freaking connection. I can put the rest together for you. You want me to put the rest together for you? Let me go ahead and take a pulse here. What do you guys think? Should I keep sharing or should I stop and save it for another day? Because I'm not putting this on TikTok. You guys are getting it here first. I can keep sharing my notes and what I put together. Let me get my handy dandy notebook. Because I will tell you, Brian Kohberger, and one of these supplements, you can go look it up. So there was an accident that involved a white Elantra. And it just so happened to be that person was arrested. And Brian Kohberger looked him up online and took a snapshot of his mugshot. Now, here's my alleged theory. I believe Brian didn't do this crime. I believe he's the patsy. He's the fall guy. I don't think he was involved. But I do think maybe perhaps he started using again. And that is how he connected to these people. And what did they do? They knew his job. They knew what he was doing. Maybe enticed him. But he didn't do it, guys. He's factually innocent. Physically, in my humble opinion, he couldn't have done this. And how do we know Brian looked him up? In the police report, I'll make another video of it. It said Moscow uncovered that Brian Koberger took a picture because there was an accident in his parking lot in Washington. And guess who was found? Cole Beringberg. He was the number one suspect. Because don't you remember the police report that there was a knife found in the gutter? There was a knife found in the gutter that Washington picked up. And that is where Cole Beringberg had an accident. And Koberger took a screenshot of his mugshot. He was in jail. He got arrested that night.